Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of Put It in the Mixer, the new branch of the Oak Road Hatter podcast. I'm Billy Mulley and I'm delighted to be joined by the star of today's show, Andy Burgess. Andy, how are you getting on?
Hi Billy, yeah, good to be here. Lots to talk about, lots to digest and discuss, but looking forward to it.
Yeah, a lot to discuss, of course. First ever episode of Put It in the Mixer, the new branch of Oak Road Hatter podcast, where we will be speaking to Andy Burgess on a regular basis to hear his thoughts and for him to deliver some analysis on talking points. And I think, Andy, it is probably the best game to start with. Lots of goals, lots to talk about. Ultimately, not on the right end of a 5-goal thriller, but at the same time, it's a lot to pack into one episode.
Absolutely, yeah. It promised to be an exciting game. I think, obviously, with West Brom's form coming into it, we knew it wasn't going to be easy. They're on a massive bounce at the moment. They've been phenomenal over the last, since the new manager came in and have really been on an upturn. But when, we spoke about it last week, when we've got players like we've got, we always felt we had a chance at home at Kenilworth Road. And it promised to be a exciting game, and it turned out to be. 3-2 is a scoreline synonymous with Luton Town. Unfortunately, we were on the wrong end of it this time.
Yeah, as you say, 3-2. There's been a lot of 3-2s, especially at Kenilworth Road over the years, and unfortunately on the wrong side of it this time. And just looking at West Brom, we've mentioned going into the game 24 points from 10 games, which is now 27 points from 11 games. And Carlos Corberan's side are now in a playoff place after, when he took charge, they were in the relegation places. So it just shows what a good job he's done already. Before we get into it all today, a quick plug to all our socials. Twitter, we are at Oak Road Hatter. Instagram, we are Oak Road Hatter Pod. Website is, of course, www.oakroadhatter.com. And today's episode is the first that we've visualized. So we're going to be on YouTube. So follow us, subscribe to us, on YouTube and share this video. It is, of course, Oak Road Hatter. So yes, without further ado, Andy, I think that the first place to start with was probably looking, before we go into the analytical side of things, is looking at the result. Luton's still in that sort of playoff chasing pack. I guess whilst we're not too disappointed, given we are still part of that pack. It could have been a very, very good afternoon, starting with 2 goals in 10 minutes.
Yeah, brilliant start. As you say, I think if we could have held on even for a point, I think it would have been a fabulous point in the end. As we'll see when we look at their goals, I think they'll point at real quality, and we'll point at lots of things that we could have done better. But yeah, I mean, we've had some fantastic results over Christmas. Those three victories on the spin were very timely. Were fantastic for Rob Edwards, and obviously coming in and having the reversal at Middlesbrough in his first game to have 3 games on paper, which were all very tough, were all very difficult, were all massive tests for us, and to come through with 9 points in the QPR, Norwich and Huddersfield games was a fantastic return. So it put us in a position where you could go into games like this, and yes, we wanted to win. We probably would have taken a draw before the game, but I think it probably speaks volumes that we've come away from it so disappointed not to get anything, especially as you say, fantastic start. 10 minutes in, both centre forwards have got two fabulous goals, and we're in the ascendancy. We're on the front foot, and the crowd are behind the team, and you want to build on that. And it's an old saying, 2-0 is a really dangerous score. And I think the timing of the goals were the killer, really. 4 or 5 minutes before, or I think 6 minutes before half time, they got the one back, and then 2 in quick succession in the second half, and that really was a couple of sucker punches. And I think overall we'll look at it and we'll come away really, really disappointed that we haven't won the game, that we haven't got a point, and we've come away with nothing. But yeah, it was a good start that we couldn't just get that extra goal and kill the game off, really.
And as we say, it was a brilliant start. Carlton Morris opening the score, and I'll let you start with your analysis here, Andy, because it was brilliant start to the game, of course, and I'll let you run through this from here.
Yeah, so I think obviously it's a good ball from Bree into Morris. He does well to hold it up. It's a good run by Doherty, which allows him pressure to ease on him. Adebayo makes a good run across the centre half, again allowing that space. It's a Morris. Look, he looks like he could pop it into Adebayo. He could go wide to Bell, and I think it's just again he could go wide to Bell. I think anybody else in that position goes wide to Bell, and the fact that he's got that shot off is. The fact that he's taken the shot probably tells you where he is in terms of his mentality at the moment, in terms of his confidence. I'd like to have seen the reaction if it hadn't have gone in, because I think there's a few questions would have been asked by Adebayo and by Bell. But if we just show it again, good ball forward. The run from Doherty just takes the full back out the way and gives him that space. There's a little bit of a powder bath tackle by the West Brom midfielder. But again, from this position, you think there's no chance he's scoring from here. It's a decent run from Adebayo getting across the centre half again, which allows that space. But anybody else probably goes wide here to Bell and gets in the box for a cross. He doesn't. He looks from here. If you see the reverse angle, he actually shoots between the legs of the defender, which is a fantastic shot. The goalkeeper's thinking he's going wide. I think the goalkeeper's got his arm out to get his defence across. But it's just a fabulous strike. And again, we've seen him score all types of goals, Carlton Morris. We've seen him score those. We've seen him score tap-ins. We've seen him score volleys from 6-7 yards out. We've seen him tap in from a yard. Headers. He is an ultimate all-round centre forward who, we know we broke our transfer record. We're not sure what it was, but we know we broke our transfer record to sign him, and he's become a fantastic signing. And I think we looked at Adebayo last season, and not many people. All right. We might have pointed to his injuries causing us a slight problem, but a centre forward probably wouldn't have been top of too many people's shopping list last summer. But the fact that the club have gone and got him, we've like the recruitment team have identified him, and he's gone in and he's done brilliant. But a lot of what I'll say is, and on these goals and on this analysis, is about running forward. And I think if Doherty doesn't run forward here, I think he gets pressured and he probably pays it off. So movement and running forward is so important. Adebayo running forward, making a move, supporting players. Again, Bell supporting on that left-hand side means that the fullback can't overcover, can't come in, and it leaves that gap between the defender marking Adebayo that he shoots into. Again, with the space there, again, players running forward, and the strike is it's absolutely top drawer. It's a sign of a really confident Carlton Morris, and that celebration we're starting to see a lot at Kenilworth Road.
Yeah, a brilliant goal, and I think when you break it down like that, you see the positivity in sort of the movement. You see Doughty there making that burst. Adebayo, of course, is not had the rub of the green, I guess, in certain aspects of the game this season, but excellent movement, and I think that's something that we've started to see under Rob Edwards. These sort of I guess more attacking runs and being more positive in movement, and I think that's something that's definitely helped someone like Carlton Morris to use players like this, use them as I guess use them for bait really to create goal scoring moments like that. And just looking at the strike itself, he's almost 90 degrees to the ball when he strikes it, and Alex Palmer, as we know, is a very, very good goalkeeper. But he just does not see that coming, and it's credit to Carlton Morris. And going back to what you said, that the types of goals he scores just makes him a continual threat throughout 90 minutes. And yeah, a very, very good goal to open the game. And it did appear that going on to the second goal, Elijah Adebayo, who I thought had a really, really good game, really positive game for him. He caused a threat the entire 90 minutes, not just with the goal, but going on to this second goal, Andy, again, brilliant movement in the box, a brilliant ball from Bree, and Adebayo doing what he does.
Absolutely, and I think that for me, this is an absolutely phenomenal ball from James Bree. I think everything about it is absolutely absolutely top class, and we have to be careful what we say about him at the minute, because we know he's obviously the vultures are circulating a little bit. But I think this is what we'll miss from him more than anything: his dead ball situations and his delivery into the box. Because, if we look at it, there's not a massive area. It's not like that West Brom are holding a hugely high line at the edge of the box. There's not a great deal of space to put it into, and he finds it unbelievably. It's decent movement. We're quite congested in there. It's, honest to God, it's an absolutely unbelievable ball, and Adebayo hasn't got a lot to do with it. He hasn't got to generate the power, because there's power on the cross. He hasn't got to really get off the ground. It's as good a ball as you'll ever see at this level. And if that was in the Premier League, if that was James Ward-Prowse putting that in or someone like that, it would be talked about for ages. Because, as I say, it's that second 6-yard box you talk about, between the penalty spot and the 6-yard box, and the quality and the pace, and there's not a lot of height on it, but it's absolutely first class. And then the header is brilliant. And listen, the header, as good as the ball is, the header is equally as good, because it's gone in. There's so much power on it. It's gone in middle of the goal into the corner. Again, as you say, Palmer's a very good goalkeeper at the level, and it just asks a question. And that type of quality is what we need to try and hold on to if we can, in terms of James Bree, because really and truthfully, we haven't got anybody in the squad. We've got decent players who can put in a decent dead ball, but in terms of that top draw, absolutely go and score a goal, Adebayo had to walk onto that, and that's difficult to find at this level.
100%, and as you say, it highlights the importance of James Bree. Sometimes is criticised with consistency of his set pieces, but it always seems to be when the first one is on song, he is a threat. He's a massive threat on that day, and I think that seemed to be the case. He got the first one completely right, and was, the delivery from corners and everything was on point, we have to say. And going 2-0 up, we mentioned it was relatively early to go 2 goals up. Sometimes can bring about a lot of pressure. I think immediately after the goal, I think we still responded well. I think we created a few opportunities to go even further ahead. We were still very, very front-footed. That's not to say West Brom didn't have their chances. They did seem to create chances at will throughout the game. But I'd still say we were in the ascendancy. And then going on to Daryl Dike's strike to half the deficit. Of course, Daryl Dike is a player that's given us problems before, but the timing of the goal, I guess, disappointing to concede in the manner we conceded. And I'll let you take it away with a little bit more analysis.
Yeah, it's a mess. The goal's a mess. I think we're caught between pressing and not pressing. I think we're caught between whether to. I think if I fire it up, sorry, wrong goal. If I fire it up, so Adebayo goes and presses, and it's not bad, but I think he can, if he cuts out the ball, the pass there, and he's not far away. Let's be honest. You can see how close he is. It's tight. It's close. So all he needs to do is nick it, get a touch, and we're in. But this is the problem for me. There's our 3 midfielders. We're not pressing. We're not dropped off. There's no pressure on the ball. The space in behind the midfield is huge now. And again, 10 seconds later, we're in the same position. Campbell hasn't pressed, and Panzu hasn't pressed. All right, Clark's gone in. And then Lockyer just gets done. Absolutely done. He goes short. DK gets short. For me, there, just looking at it, for me, I don't understand why he doesn't pick it up or go with his hands. I think he needs to be a bit braver there, the goalkeeper. And he may be thinking he's coming out of his box, and we'll go through it again in a minute because there's lots and lots to talk about there. But I just think it's an error. It's not necessarily a huge error by Adebayo because he's gone and pressed, but I think a yard to his left and they don't get out. I think it goes to the other centre half and Carlton Morris goes and presses. So that's the first slight little detail. And we are talking little details. And we're in the Championship. We're playing against good players. I get that, and we're nitpicking a little bit, but it all adds up. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, obviously, the midfielders have stepped on because they're pressed with Adebayo, and I get that. That's fine. But as soon as they beat the press, West Brom, then as a midfield, we need to drop off. If we're not going to press, if we're not going to go and engage the centre half who's in possession of the ball, then we have to drop off because the space between our back four, or our back three, sorry, and our midfield is huge. It's massive, and that what happens is DK drops into the space that happens. Lockyer goes with him. Potts stays in behind him, and because Potts doesn't squeeze with Lockyer, there's a huge gap to spin into, and Lockyer gets far too tight. For me, Lockyer doesn't need to go and get tight with him because the danger is the goal. So Lockyer just needs to let him go. If the ball gets played into his feet, then Lockyer can go and get tight. But because Lockyer gets tight anyway, it's brilliant movement. It's fantastic movement, and from a West Brom point of view, you'd say it's great play and a good goal. The next thing for me is that the goalkeeper's starting position should be much higher. The ball is 10, 15 yards in the opposition half. As it comes over the top, for me, and again we'll play it again now. For me, Horvath should be higher in his starting position. So that's what I'm saying. Can we force it to go to the other one where the pressure is? Again, it's really, really close. We've nearly nicked it. It's not quite happened. So now we can't put pressure on the ball. There's no one close up. So we have to drop. We have to drop. We do a little bit, but nowhere near enough. You know, if we're not going to press now, if Campbell's going to go. He doesn't go. He doesn't go. He doesn't go. There's huge gaps everywhere. It's difficult because you can't see it on the camera, but it's great movement. Lockyer gets totally done. Potts is too deep, and then the ball over the top is a good one. Again, you know, for me, again, I think DK is blocking the ball. He's not kicking it; he's blocking it. So therefore, for me, Horvath should be able to pick it up. Again, he might be thinking it will be handball, and he might be taking what he believes is a safe option of kicking it. So I can understand maybe why he hasn't, but I just think if his starting position is that little bit better, we're too deep off Lockyer. If Lockyer has gone in tight, which I don't think he probably should have done at that point, then Potts needs to come up. Potts needs to squeeze with him. But it's very, very disjointed. And whether that's mixed messages because we're still a young side in terms of a Rob Edwards size, I don't know. But there was lots and lots that I think we made it a little bit too easy there for West Brom to score that goal.
Yeah, and it was not very typical of the goals we do concede. You know,
No,
the work we do out of possession, usually a lot tighter than that. And there's always talk about triggers when out of possession. Adebayo goes to press and look to take advantage of Alex Palmer not being able to do too much with the ball, and you know, he gets away with it. But you would have thought that with that trigger, with Palmer not really knowing what to do with the ball, that could have pushed the midfield up, and as you say there,
I think if we show it again, I think Campbell could go. I actually think Campbell could go because he's not marking anybody. In fact, two of the midfielders, him and Pelly, aren't marking anybody. So, there is a midfielder there, but he's not really causing a massive danger. So there, if Campbell continues, then we're on the press because Morris can central. I just think we're not massively outnumbered. So if Campbell wants to release himself and go, he can. You know, Adebayo tries to have a little nibble, but neither Pelly or Campbell engage him, and that causes a problem. And as you say, it's not a goal typical that we do concede because it looks like we're hugely disorganised, and that's not us. We are usually really, really organised. But there was lots and lots to look at there from a defensive point of view for us to do better.
And then going on to the leveller, Jason Mulley equalising. Again, it was a goal that wasn't too typical of what we do concede. And again, a lot to unpack, I'm sure, from your perspective. But it was at a point of the game where Luton started after the break relatively well. Of course, West Brom was still remaining a threat, but I wouldn't really say West Brom were on top at that point. But it's, I guess, in conjunction with the eventual winner, it's the timing of those goals, and again, defensive mistakes definitely arose during those sort of 2 minutes of chaos. And yeah, going on to that Mulley goal, it was a difficult one to concede.
It was, and again, lots of different issues. I think when we're talking about round pegs in square holes, I do think I think that's been a little bit of a trend for a couple of seasons now. I was always quite against Naismith playing centre half, because I didn't see him being a natural defender. And I think you'll see on this goal, the Breed playing centre half, he's not a natural defender. And people talk about natural goal scorers, you know, they put him in front of the goal, they're going to score a goal because it's natural to him. For me, being a centre half, it's a natural thing where you go and put your body on the line to block shots. We've seen Lockyer, we saw at Blackpool, you know, the amount of times people, you know, Lockyer block shot, that to him is natural. To Sonny Bradley, it's natural. When a ball drops in the penalty area, you throw yourself in front of it. Reece Burkitt, natural centre halves are natural at emergency defending. And although that, you know, that there's a question mark, was a big question mark on the goalkeeper dropping the cross, and I'll talk about that in a moment. And there's other things that contribute to it. Bree here for me just needs to go and address the ball, go and close the ball. But if we show it, always I don't think we get close enough to stop crosses. I think Bell can be closer. He can be a yard to his left to stop it coming in there. The goalkeeper's under no pressure and he's dropped it. That should be meat and drink. Now, for me, don't go out and address the ball. I was always taught, go and block the ball. Get out. Don't go on the line. Let the goalkeeper deal with that. The shot there, I think he has to do better with Horvath. He's not blocked. If you see it from the angle behind, he's not blocked. But this is the one. Bree just stops. Bree stop. He doesn't. For me, if that's Lockyer in that position, if that's Sonny Bradley, they're getting out to the ball and throwing themselves in. Listen, he might not have blocked it anyway. But for me, if you've got a centre half throwing himself at you, you're less likely to connect well. You're less likely to drive the ball into the ground like he did. I do think we have an issue of stopping crosses. I don't think we do well enough. And I'll never forget, I had to play fullback once. And the only thing that I was told was, if they're going to cross the ball, cross it. And it happens on both the last two goals, the equaliser and the winner. Let them cross it in front of you. Because if they cross it in front of you, as a centre half, you're coming onto the ball. You're not going back towards your own goal. You're not defending towards your own goal. It was probably more in the second goal that they'll show it. But on this one, again, it can be done better. Bell as a fullback needs to let him cross to his right. So take a yard to his left. It doesn't come into that area. Yes, Horvath's practiced them all week. He should be catching that 100%. Then as he drops it, can Clark be a little bit more committed? Not committed, but can he take a little bit more, get a better connection on it? Then can we get out to the ball? Can we go and block? I think Horvath should do better there. As you see the angle from behind, he's not blocked. So he should see it, maybe hold on to it, maybe push it wide. And then, as I say, for me, Bree, I think it's Bell on the line, or it might be Pelly. I have to get out to the ball. Yeah, he has to see, Malumba has to see somebody flying at him there. And I think we've stayed on the line. Bree's tried to make himself big. And I just believe that is, and I highlighted a couple of times 2 seasons ago that Naismith playing in that position, or last season, Naismith playing that, he didn't do that. He didn't get to the ball. He didn't block it. He didn't throw his body in there enough. And I think that comes from not having proper out-and-out centre-halves at times. And it doesn't, don't get me wrong, Bree and Potts playing in those wider centre-half positions, they're positives. I've been looking at the passing stats today. They were really good. You know, the quality into Morris for his goal from Bree. It does allow you to do that. But I just think, when it comes down to the emergency defending, I think you see when they're not a natural centre half in the middle of the goal that can make themselves big and be horrible and chuck themselves and really die for the cause.
Yeah, as you say, this sort of defensive issue, of course, losing Peter Koso and Cal Naismith there, it's always seemed that adding centre back would have been, especially coming into the January transfer window, priority. And I think that probably highlights it a little bit more that a centre back is an out and out centre back is still required at Kenilworth Road this month. And going on to the last goal, the eventual winner, happening just 2 minutes after Malumbi's strike, where you're trying to shore things up and ensure that they don't benefit from the momentum. That's exactly what they did. They benefited from the momentum that they had, and Connor Townsend sticks in the back of the net, and that's, you know, not game over at that point, but it's a big sucker blow.
Yeah, 100%. I said earlier, the timing of the goals was a big thing for me. It was, you know, to concede just before half time is one thing because they've got the momentum, and at 2-1, you know, one moment they're back on level terms, and then to allow them that moment, and then 4 minutes later, 3 minutes later, to concede this was a disaster, and they were massively then in the ascendancy, and I just think goals change games, but I think time and a goal certainly change games, and these were two sucker punches that really killed us. But again, it's come from that wide area. Again, I think we worked hard initially to stop the cross, and I think they cut it back a couple of times, but then again it comes back to, I'll show it in a moment, crossing from in front of you, allowing the centre halves, and this really highlights it. It really highlights the fact that if you allow them to cross from behind, it makes it really difficult for the defenders. I do think, having looked at, I think Potts can do better. I think Potts needs to take it again. This is another. He's not a natural centre half. He can probably take 2 steps, a step, a yard to his left to cut out the cross across the front of the front post. Having said that, Lockyer doesn't. But I think Lockyer and Potts are thinking that Horvath is going to come and get it, because it does dissect the centre of the goal, the 6-yard box. So we work hard to stop the cross here, which is good. And then I think it's Pelly's got to do more. Again, they're crossing it from behind us. Again, we're not close enough. Again, they're crossing it from behind us. And as it comes in, it's just that yard from all 3 centre halves. They're not bad positions, but listen, it's a magnificent cross. But it goes through our centre. It goes through our 6-yard box, and for me, it's got to be one or the other. And as you see at the back post, I think Doherty switches off, and it's a tap in at the far stick. But it's got to be one or the other. It's either got to be the 3 centre halves, or one of the centre halves at least steps in and gets across his near post and clears it, or Horvath has got to come and get it. It can't be neither, and it was neither. Again, as I say, that Potts and Bree perhaps wouldn't find themselves in that position all the time. They'd be out trying to stop the cross. I think Lockyer is thinking he's in not a bad position, Lockyer. So I think he's thinking this will be the goalkeepers. But again, I think he'll be disappointed, Edwards, with a lot of it. I think he'll be very disappointed with Doherty at the back post for switching off, because you see there, Doherty's in a good position. He's got in goal side. He just switches off there. You can actually see if it's Doherty on the left-hand side. He just switches off. It's a magnificent cross. It's again, from a West Brom point of view, you're saying what a goal. But from a Luton point of view, even there, Lockyer almost seems to half go for it and thinking Horvath should be coming to get it. But maybe Horvath has got in the back of his head, the 2 goals earlier. He's come off his line, not dealt with the first one. He's come off his line and dropped the second one. So, you know what? I'm just going to stay at home and let my defenders deal with it. But it's disappointing. Again, for me, all 3 goals we could do better with. But, you have to say the last cross, that I think it was Phillips who put it in. It's a magnificent ball. Like Breeze, it's a fantastic ball, and he's just walked onto it. But I think from our point of view, we can do a lot better defensively to stop it happening.
And I think from then on, listening to Rob Edwards after the game, he mentioned about how the timing of the goals really, really deflated them. Sort of the 2 in quick succession dealt them a bit of a blow in trying to get one back. Created a couple of good openings after that, but nothing really clear cut. But ultimately, looking back at the game, it's 3 goals, 3 sort of moments in the game where we either switched off or mistakes were made. And as good as West Brom were, because I think it's important to stress they were a very, very good side. Not many teams come to Kenilworth Road and outplay us. We don't let teams really outplay us. And whilst they didn't outplay us for the full 90 minutes, there were definitely parts of the game where they did do that exactly. And yeah, I think it's important to stress that there was also parts of our game that were really good, and as we mentioned, that sort of first probably extended to 25 minutes where we were on top and we were making things really, really difficult with Adebayo, for me, really, really causing problems. I think Dar O'Shea was given man of the match by the West Brom side of things. I think he appeared in the team of the week, but in the first 25 minutes, Adebayo gave him a really, really difficult time, and it's exactly the kind of surface he does provide, and something that which is why even during sort of the difficulties he's had this season, whilst wide trust has been put in him, because he does bully defences
Mm.
and he does cause problems. And I think that was good to see. And whilst there were negatives and these 3 goals all avoidable, there were a fair few positives to take as well, which was why I don't think the Luton fan base were too upset with the result in the end, because they did see positive signs from the side. And I think that's sort of reflected on Rob Edwards and his post-match presser as well, that he did recognise the positive elements of the game. And just as you said at the start of the show, Andy, it was just being on the wrong side of a 3-2 result at Kenilworth Road.
Absolutely. And we mentioned last week, when you've got 2 centre forwards like we've got, they're going to cause problems to anybody. They're going to, the strength and the power and the quality, if we can supply them, if we can help them, if we can get runners off them, if we can put crosses in the box and give them opportunities, they're going to score goals. The form and the confidence and the space that Carlton Morris is in at the minute is phenomenal. I think he'd walk into any team at this level. I think anyone would take him at the moment, especially with his age and I would say I'd be amazed if Premier League clubs aren't looking at him. And then likewise Adebayo, because we know his raw qualities are immense. So any central defensive partnership or a back 3 in the Championship will look at those 3 and say, well, they're going to give us a hard time. And to go 2-0 up at home is a real credit to us and shows how good we can be. I think I totally agree with Rob Edwards in the sense that the time of the goals were the killer, and they were the ultimate sucker punches. And the fact that we're coming away from a game against West Brom, who've got Premier League players, who have got a Premier League budget, having been disappointed, being 2-0 up, etc., it shows how far we've come and how close we are to being I think we already are a really, really well respected Championship club. And nobody comes to Luton anymore, nobody plays Luton anymore without a fear factor of us or without showing us massive respect. And I think that's huge credit to everything, everyone at the club, certainly the recruitment guys who have done an incredible job on the budget that we've got. Obviously Nathan before Rob Edwards, who's come in and hit the ground running, I think has got to be said. And I think we will talk about in a minute. He's made little tweaks, little changes. But one thing I would say is I think the players are playing for him, and that's a good thing, because that's always a little bit of a worry when there's a manager change. But everybody seems to be, playing for him and working for him. And listen, yes, we've lost a game, but we're in a really positive place.
And as you mentioned there, we'll come on now to those sort of little tweaks that we've seen. Of course, when Nathan Jones departed, it wasn't a complete ripping up of the playbook. There was a lot of aspects of the game that we've maintained under Rob Edwards, and rightfully so, because a lot that what Nathan Jones sort of instilled was correct, and the way to go about things at Luton Town. But there has been slight changes, noticeable changes that we've seen in our approach, whether that be in possession, out of possession. And I think, coming to you, Andy, what do you think's that sort of most noticeable factor from what you've seen of Luton under Nathan Jones to this sort of new era under Rob Edwards?
Yeah, I think there have been. I like the fact that he's shown the continuity in terms of keeping shape and stuff like that. But there's certainly, I think he likes to commit players forward back more. I think he likes to get. I think Campbell in the 3 games that we won got in more scoring positions than he would, or higher up the pitch and beyond centre forwards, and showed his energy when he played a bit deeper. I forget which game he played a bit deeper, and I thought that took out what he'd been good at. So I think there's lots more energy. I think there's more forward runs. I think you're seeing the wider centre halves, whether that's a consequence of it being Bree and the fact that Bree is a wing back, is a full back, that he said, do you know what, when it's on that side and we can join in, Sheffield United-esque when they went into the Premier League or won the Championship, went in the Premier League, they very much committed their wider centre halves forward, and I think we've seen that under Edwards more than we did under Nathan Jones. And I think even Burke, the goal at Huddersfield, it comes from that. The goal at Huddersfield, he's got on the overlap, I think, or in a lap of Bree, got into the box and took his goal like a seasoned centre forward. And I think that has been, and I think we can do that when you've got. It's not so much the other side because Potts probably hasn't got the legs of Bree or a Burke, but he can do it and he can join in. And when you've got Potts and Bell on one side, basically two fullbacks, and then you've got Bree and Doherty on the other side, or Burke and Bree on the other side, you've got the ability to do that. And I think he's identified that and he's seen that, and he's allowed us to do it more. And I think that therefore then allows the midfield to shuffle around a little bit. As I say, Campbell joining in and making those penetrating runs. He can score goals. We've seen he score goals, and I think he has got that energy and that cleverness to time his runs forward and time his runs to get into the box. And then it's about getting the quality from deliveries from wide areas when we do commit. I think we are committing players into the box a lot. Maybe doing a disservice to Nathan in what he's doing, but I am seeing lots of bodies filling the box, getting in the box. We're seeing lots of different goal scorers. Doherty popping up with a goal, and then the continuation of Morris's form. Adebayo coming into a bit of form, as we said, he was good on Saturday. So I think he's certainly stamped a little bit of his own philosophy on it without ripping up the book that got us to a really good place. But it's interesting to see. I think he will continue to evolve it. I think he's that type of manager. I don't think I think he'll be seeing things that he perhaps doesn't quite like still, and that's up to him to go and change it. I'd be surprised if he's happy with the back four or the back three, the three centre halves. Potts has played a lot and he's done okay in games. He's done okay. He's certainly performed probably better than he did at times last season, I think. But I'm a big advocate of round pegs in round holes. And I think he's shown good trust in the likes of Louis Watson, who's come in. I thought he did well when he came on Saturday. I think, as I said last week, he's the type of player who we need in there, who can get on the ball, who can dictate in the middle of the park, the direction. He's positive. He plays forward. I'd like to see him in there with maybe Clark and Campbell getting forward and supporting. I think he can do that. He's tenacious as well. So, yeah, there's not huge changes, but there's certainly things that I think he's improved us with, and I think that's credit to him.
Yeah, as you say, it's that sort of evolution process. Sort of he's inherited this squad that's in a very, very good place, but he's also got his own ideas. He won't want to chuck all of his own ideas onto the squad and implement too many changes at one time. But ultimately, the process will be that he will want to leave his print, and there's different aspects of his sort of managerial self that he will want to implement on these players. And I think we've seen little bits of that. I think Louis Watson coming in and, very, very technically gifted, very brave on the ball, but he's also, positive and somebody that recycles possession very, very well. I think we've seen when he has played, our possession figures are a lot higher. That of course comes down to the opposition we're playing, but also comes down to the kind of player he is. He always wants the ball, and that's something I've noticed so far, that when Watson plays, he's always showing for the ball, and in ways that perhaps Pelly and Jordan Clark, they do show for the ball, and there are occasions where they do that very, very well. But Watson seems to always be available. He's somebody that's movement off the ball. He's just as good as when he gets on the ball and looks to dictate play. So I think that's something that we could look forward to, seeing him in the first team picture a lot more as the rest of the season goes on. And as you say, when he came on Saturday, didn't look out of place against the top championship side again. So that's credit to his performances, credit to his development, credit to Nathan Jones, the recruitment team at spotting him at Derby. And yeah, as I think we've said a lot on the Oak Road Hat podcast, we're very, very excited to see how he develops. He's obviously a very, very exciting talent.
Yeah, and it's, unless you put these players in, unless you give them time on a pitch, you're never going to know. And I think it's, it takes a brave man to do it, because you're almost stepping into the unknown with these younger players. But I think you have to trust your recruitment team. You have to trust, what you see every day on the training ground. He's certainly not a shrinking violet, Louis Watson. He can handle himself and get perhaps sometimes a little bit too fiery, but you certainly don't want to take that out of his game. And I too are very much looking forward to his development and his evolution. Again, he's only going to do that if he gets game time. And I think when you look at our midfield, Clark's developed into a central midfielder. He's not really a central midfielder, but he's done a phenomenal job. He's been probably potentially our best player, perhaps behind Morris this season, in my opinion. So there is the opportunity for me to put him in and give him a run of games, and hopefully he can repay the manager for his faith and his giving him the opportunity of getting in the team and keeping the shirt.
Well, that is all for today. A big thank you to you, Andy, for coming on for the first episode of Put It in the Mixer. Of course, mentioned before, it's the extended branch of the Oak Road Hatter podcast, and we're excited to continue that and hopefully bring you more episodes in the not so distant future. Reminder to like, share and subscribe on YouTube. It's a new venture for us, so all will be appreciated. The normal podcast will be back on Thursday as well, so make sure to tune in for that. But until then, it is a goodbye from us, and we'll see you soon.